The best companies that I have worked with in the past and the ones that you can see succeed are the ones where the high management, even like from chairman, C level, are the ones that have quite advanced SEO knowledge in place.
I'm John Wright, and you're listening to Affiliate BI, the business intelligence and affiliate marketing podcast brought to you by StatsGo.
Welcome to the Affiliate BI podcast. Today we're chatting with Dirk Schembri, who's his own boss with Dirk SEO, and he's held senior SEO positions at Growth Leads, Phoenixio, and RakeTech. Dirk, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. Great being on board as well. I'm looking forward to discussing the way the future of the SEO world is panning out.
Yeah. So speaking of that, is SEO dead, and how's business going?
A very interesting question. I've heard this saying for many years since the Panda and Penguin days. SEO has always been in touch, but I think like with anything from an SEO perspective, definitely not dead, but it has changed drastically. So for people who are not quick to adapt and understand that they need to evolve with it, would feel like they're dead and stuck. It's like with anything. If you stay doing the same thing over and over again with the changing things, you're digging yourself a big hole there.
Yeah, we were just
Oh,
chatting
no,
before.
it's not.
We were chatting just before recording, and I told you it's like if I didn't have this Stats project, I'd love to be an SEO today, like the most volatile point in SEO. So I actually think there's a lot of people that maybe they're scared and they think SEO is actually dead and the game's kind of changed or it's over. But I think this is probably one of the biggest opportunities ever.
Absolutely, especially with the introduction to AI as well, and the way the rankings, you can tell it's kind of Google example is feeling on edge because of all the drastic core updates that are coming out. There used to be a handful of updates per year, core updates. Now it's what, one, two, it's almost crazy. But again, with I would say like things have simplified so much, but with that simplification, like with the advanced any technology comes the kind of drastic listen, the knowledge base needs to increase to that as well. So yeah, where you constantly need to keep track as well of things as well. But yeah, it's a definitely interesting and challenging part of things as well.
So SEO is a big component of iGaming from the affiliate side, operator side, B2B, you name it. I think it's actually one of the most maybe not well-known skills in the entire industry. Do you think more people should be learning this? And I just think there's a lot of companies that they're not even getting the max value or anywhere near the max value of SEO. And I think what's getting in the way is people actually not understanding so they could bring it to the higher ups in their company and say, hey, let's invest a bit more in SEO.
The best companies that I have worked with in the past and the ones that you can see succeed are the ones where the high management, even like from chairman, C level, are the ones that have quite advanced SEO knowledge in place. So they actually do understand that. You can see them reading and actually testing some stuff. Those are the ones that really, from my end, always keep the ones that people try to follow. So from the case of SEO, yes, you do have to always invest as well. And there's always SEO is dead. Still people, the search amounts are crazy. There's a reason why Google invests so much into making sure that from a search perspective, it's still the front runner in that end. But yes, I think one thing with the ever-changing thing is the education and things. Educating your people, at least from a fundamental point of view, why this needs to be this way. I think everyone working within, say, an affiliate, the business in particular as well, needs to understand that things have changed and having a simple blog, let's call it, style of website is when people would say SEO is dead. Yes, I know people that have bought for iGaming, they would buy a video gaming, a sports only related website, fully adapt that to iGaming, and it explodes in revenue and traffic. That kind of approach obviously is being picked on. And the one thing that one needs to focus on is making it more organic, in the case that you don't only focus on SEO, you need to focus on the brand of things. You need to focus on the social aspect of things. You need to come from many different angles at it to succeed nowadays,
Do you
at
think
least the long term.
Yeah. Do you think newsletters are now an important thing that affiliates should do? So, for example, the old way was affiliate comes on Google, they click on a link, they go to the operator, great. But most times the affiliate actually hasn't captured any first party data. I'm thinking that maybe the first party data is actually more valuable because you can resell that user, but that's also a signal, in my opinion, back to Google that Google's actually going, hey, there's real traffic coming from here. They're not fully dependent on Google. Is this very important?
yes, keeping your retention based as high as possible is definitely what we want. Yes, in the case of email example can be one way. Obviously, you do need to be more careful with cookie base and GDPR aspect of things. But once you say settle those, that's why you need, again, to have a mailing list enabled on your website. You need to make sure you have social. People as well want to hear from the latest bonuses. So you want to make sure that your social channels don't just give in the kind of obvious, but you want to give special aspects and special bonuses within your social aspect. So you get people locked in there and coming back from that end as well. So yes, definitely. If you're just expecting people to search on Google and coming in from that way only, yeah, that's when the SEO dead topic is always highly discussed.
And what SEO tools are in your toolbox?
So I like to stick with a small number as possible tool set. So from my end, yes, I am an Ahrefs user. I'm not sponsored by them, but with its Ahrefs, so SEMrush is just adapted very greatly to using Ahrefs. But in the case of AI tools, I don't use AI just to generate plain content, but to simplify my process. So I make sure that AI has guides and SOPs in it to simplify how an email is written, how a certain WordPress blog needs to be structured. I make sure that the SOPs in my workforce, my people that work with me, have a certain standard and checklists. So these are, honestly, when it comes to AI, we just make sure that we have a full set of checklists that AI would go in and verify that it passes. So from my end, it's, Ahrefs, Google Search Console, and very custom GPTs that we've built and make sure that they learn the new functionalities we want to go by with anything we do, whether it's creating video, uploading content, internal linking as well, checks, sitemaps. If there's an error on Google, we have specific things that there's a specific errors in Google Search Console. We have a certain structure, like a bot that we keep on generating and ask what needs to be done. So that's as far as my tool set will go. And Google Sheets, like crazy, especially with AI. It's incredible how easy it's become to create highly advanced scripts and formulas within Google Sheets or Google Docs.
Yeah, I feel like I'm missing a little bit in that area, especially I've seen a lot of create their own bots and use ChatGPT for SEO analysis and basically building their own SEO tool stack with it.
Absolutely. That's the beautiful thing. You actually, okay, you have to use third parties or gather information, but then once we get that information, populate it into a GPT and customize it for a specific site, specific page, specific geo, we do go down to that granular. The results we're seeing are the majority positive as well. And also it simplifies the process to work with your team. We all work on a shared GPT, so everyone is understanding what's going on. So when we put in new data, it's being shared and we keep on generating the latest populated data within certain GPTs. It's becoming scarily bright. Let's call it like that.
You mentioned before about branding as being an important thing in SEO. How do you think a lot of companies in iGaming are actually not understanding branding properly? They think of branding as this is a logo, this is a good design, and it stops there. How is branding an important SEO metric?
I think this goes down to two ways, whether you're an operator or even an affiliate. Again, that's why I believe you have to build a sort of brand around it. You have to make your name being recognizable, whether it's the name of your company, whether it's a specific tool that your company provides, specific functionality. You need to have that brand that once a search is done, it is recognized with you as well. In the case of, say, operators or even providers, they have to make sure that, listen, when you're building a brand, you have to protect the brand. One thing that I know that people are making low-hanging fruit, easy money is by abusing other people's brand. As you said, people are not aware of how important their brand is. So you find these sharks practically. They'll go in, buy anything from a domain, social, build it up to mimic a brand. And it is honestly the quickest way to generate high volume, very highly converting traffic from my experience. And it's working. It's still working with any updates that come out. So from even understanding how to use your brand is making sure you protect your brand. That is just as important. And one of the biggest businesses that I'm currently involved in as well, because we have so many requests and it's become quite difficult as it becomes so good at it. These, if you want to call them kind of foreign entities that come in and try to take over your brand. They're being very smart, very quick to react as well from even server location. If you come in from a specific IP, they know that you're trying to figure out certain things, so they block it. So yeah, it's quite a nice challenge.
Do you think the role of a head of product or product related roles have a weird direct correlation to SEO? Because if you're a product person, you're basically like, look, I need a quality product. I need users coming back. I need all these metrics that matter. And I think this actually translates to conversion rate optimization, which goes right back into SEO.
Once you get any sort of, in case of the product, I believe that's from my best experience, people who understand the product good are people that come from an SEO background as well. The amount of that creates and how the simplicity into actually facilitating what is needed, I would always recommend someone to have a certain level of SEO knowledge. In the case of, yes, brand and metrics when it comes to your end, once we do our job from an SEO, the biggest thing is to use the tool, say whatever you want to generate and see how to quickly convert these elements. Because you can have literally, you did all the heavy lifting, you're generating a certain amount of traffic just by understanding your main KPIs. And sometimes it's not possible to build these things in-house. So that's why tools are out there as well to simplify your main KPIs and understand what these are. Literally just with simple negotiations, you can be making 10, 20% in an instant like that. But you do have to have obviously a certain amount of leverage to negotiate that.
Yeah. I actually think that a lot of product people would make good SEO people rather than a good SEO person becoming product. Because it's what we talked about before recording is that what's SEO? What's it been for a long time? People like making the quick buck. We always want to do that everywhere. But I think the SEO game has changed where we're now basically in this full quality mode. So it's like, what is quality? Quality is product. And I think when you start saying, how do I make sure that this is a better user experience? Like it goes full circle to what Google's trying to do with this. Let's make content helpful.
Absolutely. And this goes hand in hand with the brand. When you're building a product, you're practically building a brand. So that's why I feel that they need to go hand in hand, even if it's affiliation where you're just trying to be that middleman website. You have to understand that you have to focus on building a brand as well. Don't just focus on the ranking SEO part of things. See how you're going to build that brand, make your brand recognized. So I know it takes more investment, maybe harder to sell to higher ups, but they need to understand that if you're here for the long term, obviously it should be everyone's approach. You need to invest. And as you're saying, making it a real product from even Google's perspective, because they recognize they don't want anyone speaking about something. They don't want the parasite to call the websites. They want to have real users come in and having a real, genuinely good experience and finding what they actually searched for.
So you mentioned about back in the old days, we had Panda and Penguin updates, which it actually lost us a lot of affiliates that were actually doing pretty well. And with Helpful Content Update, we're seeing, I think, the same thing over again. Without naming any affiliate sites, and I'm sure you find these things in Ahrefs where it's like, oh, they're not doing so well. What advice would you have to some of these companies that maybe this is like their last chance to fix it? Otherwise, they might actually have to exit their business.
One thing that us recovered recently, quite a large website, would be taking a step back. As we said, you've had a website that generated a huge amount of volume from multiple geos, and you've obviously been clamped drastically. Take a step back, filter out. If you're providing your services to 20 different languages, filter that out back drastically. Put it into 1-2 main geos. It sounds very risky, but we've seen one really good result, and we're currently doing another process, and we're already seeing positive results. Making sure we have 400,000 pages, and honestly, majority of them will probably not bring in any value. Either remove the index completely for them. Don't just redirect them. Don't think you don't want to waste anything, so you're redirecting. Don't be scared to cut off certain things, like any aspect. Sometimes you need to cut off to eventually grow more. And I feel that's one thing as well, even from content point of view. We've all been used to those 10,000 word, my God, casino bonus articles. Drastically pull those down. Make sure you don't overdo your converting elements above the fold where it can be annoying. Go straight to the point, and don't be too scared to keep it a bit more smaller at this current point. Because the people just want the results. Keep the fluff maybe for later on down the line.
Do you think that maybe, like, I believe this could be true, or it is true, that sites that had maybe too many calls to action are distracting? Like affiliates have been focused on sales, and if it works, that's great. But I'm wondering if this is actually an important thing where the sales might actually turn people off. And Google's basically, look, if people are turned off, I know that people are turned on by other pages that actually have less like blasted call to action. Do you think affiliates need to cut it back on the tracking links as one way of trying to optimize their pages and sites?
Again, if the option, someone comes in for a very, and again, I'll talk about specific bonus, and you want to, don't provide the whole 100 list of operators within blasted there. Make sure you give above the fold, you give at least the top ones. But then I know people want to show. It's more having honestly the constant template, I think, approach. So say you have your 50 operators and you're just blasting that on every page. Make sure every page is customized, that you're only showing the main operators that convert. Don't just show 100. Take the top 5, top 10. At the end of the day, those are the ones that should generate the most revenue. So right now, I would cut it a bit less as well, but from a content as well, not only from a CPA. Just don't have content just because every page requires 10,000 words. Take away the fluff. Definitely one thing I would recommend.
So do you think sales could be getting in the way of this where the sales managers, look, I've got these 10 listings. I've already sold them for the next year. I don't want to change the structure because it's almost like the second you take away the sales power, that person's pissed off within that organization. I think the industry's been growing on the sales part as a component of the affiliate section. What do you think about how sales needs to be?
I think if you're seeing negative results and you can't stop the bleeding, you have to think yourself, am I just going to keep on because I have that sales agreement for the year going to eventually bleed me dry? Or am I going to make sure that I have that good relationship with the operator and explain to them, listen, this is the situation. This is how we have to pull things back until we get our feedback and make sure that we get the traffic that initially we actually promised you. It's obviously keeping things up to date, but yeah, I think you do have to be that kind of, not evil, but you have to be honest and take that step back, because otherwise people you're just going to dig yourself a grave. I do believe that. And again, cleaning up you can see significant improvements. I don't know anyone who says, oh yeah, I added 5,000 more words. I've added more top lists and my ranking has exploded. I've never heard that. So
more top
again,
listings.
this is when you're seeing damage. If things are steady and good, just don't overdo it, because then you don't see that huge sudden dip where an update comes in and just trashes you. But I would be very wary into overdoing it.
What would you say as advice for some of the slot sites that are actually trending down in rankings? Because not all slot sites are going down. Some are actually going up. But for the ones that seem to be in a free fall, and I'm sure you've looked at these sites, what would you advise them to do to pivot to regain or at least maintain what they've got?
I would always check again the brand name. I think one thing that comes into play is, let's call them whatever, the name within your domain has always been an important part, and see how that is being a kind of influence with your competitors. Do competitor research, see what the top 3 competitors, how they've actually been affected in this. And you have to understand and figure out like what difference is yours between the top 3 competitors, not only from an on-page, off-page, and not only from an SEO. You have to see what are they doing from a brand, from a social, from maybe they have Telegram as well coming in. I know that's in some markets very highly attractive, and converting elements are really significant in those fields as well. So you have to look even outside the SEO aspect of things as well. Even from backlinks, you don't just go and build blog posts. You have to be more creative, making sure you get proper PRs in place, making sure you get the social viral boost aspect. That's one topic that is really being discussed and highly demanded for right now.
And would you say when it comes to link building that affiliates need to also apply that same quality concept and branding concept all the way into link building and no more trash links?
Absolutely. No, as dash links for a money site scares the living hell of me. Even from my end, there's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Like anyone doing tier 3, I think is a waste of time and money nowadays, because they're pure junk. Just don't even consider it. It's a waste of time just even trying to disavow such things, because they bring zero value to it. I see sites that are 90 plus DR on Ahrefs, So from someone with that experience would be wow. But if you look into deep, they'd be literally like beyond crap. You have to be very selective as well. But again, I do understand that they are still very important. Off page is as important, I think, as any time in the SEO history as well. Is just you have to focus on quality rather than quantity for sure. And especially even like the anchor ratio, backlinks coming in. That's why the brand is significantly important. If you're focusing on the brand, you should always include your brand within your anchor to make it look more targeted towards you as well. So this is what I mean when it comes to building a brand as well. You don't just go best, no deposit bonus, boom, keep it like that. That's the most obvious. Make sure that there's a brand integration in there as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion because I recorded a friend, Sharia Jane, who does a bit more B2B SEO. And he was saying two things: that he notices that sites that rank well, they have these weird quality metrics. Like they're just a little bit faster. They spend a bit more on different types of tools. They invest more in the site. And he basically said he finds that there's a correlation when it comes to link building as well. You know what a link farm looks like. What does a link farm not have? They don't have social signals. They would never have a podcast. They're not going to have an actual company footer. They're not going to have a lot of real people. So I'm just thinking out loud that not only do you have to build the quality site, but the links actually have to have that weird component.
And this is something, as you said, you cannot fake. If you're a company and you have 100 employees, you can't really fake 100 real accounts on LinkedIn linking back to you as a company. These are sort of things that we take for granted. But I do believe that they do bring in the kind of increase eventually, not only from an SEO perspective. So yes, definitely. In the case of podcasts, you can't really fake that. Yeah, if you're doing fake, I don't know, audio, then that's going to show up. I don't know what, it's going to go down. You're not going to have any views. So it would make sense to them what is junk and what is not. But yes, these sort of things, again, they do require time. There's no really shortcutting it to it. So that's why people are finding it different, while we're creatures who try to automate the simplest thing with little effort. There needs to be a sort of effort that needs to be placed. Is AI and content, is our job going away? No, it cannot go away, because you always need to have that person to take in charge of what's going on and maneuver. You can have factories that are mainly automated, but you always have to have a supervisory person there, because if it goes to crap, one thing, the whole thing goes. So yeah, that's where things are as well. I think that the rudimentary old jobs, we call them, are going away, but it's like with anything in the past with humans. You have to adapt to that as well.
Would you say that there's a massive untapped potential in, let's say, the streaming space? Because when we look at what streamers are, they bring in a different audience. They have the stickiness of their channels, because they're not just SEO. They're being followed on YouTube, Twitch, maybe Telegram. And I'm just thinking that these are interesting assets. It's almost like you could build the SEO value around someone like that, rather than the other way, which is, okay, let's start with the SEO affiliate side and then let's maybe add streaming, which I still think is a great idea, but maybe that could be a new avenue for operators and affiliates to say, hey, streaming is basically a huge gateway.
It definitely is. But as you said, I think it's very obvious if you're an SEO adapted with a company website and you start putting in streaming, you're just trying to enhance. What I did in this case is you either come from the streaming and build it up from the SEO the other way around, or else you find another partner and you merge together. Those are the best ones, best results. Because no matter how much you invest, sometimes if you don't have the right, you're not targeting the right audience, you're not targeting the right content, you can be spending a tons of, but you're still be missing the target. So that's why I think this is where good collaboration comes into play. Because I think, as you said, if you're good in SEO and you try to get the streamers in, I think I've had it in 2 or 3 previous companies where we've tried it. And unfortunately, it never panned out. And we've built a studio to start streaming and stuff. But still, it shows that it's not authentic. People go into these and start following these streamers because it's all authentic. People come in and they're actually genuinely interested, because this guy's genuinely interested in doing what he's doing. But when it's forced, I think the majority of the time it's very risky.
Yeah. I'm probably going to get in trouble if anyone's actually listening to this part, but it's like, I remember ESPN Bet was doing a show, and it was like, they actually put a lot of production into it, but it was like, they're all talking about odds. I mean, it was all going up on YouTube. When I watch this, I'm like, this is just overly produced odds. Like, it was actually, it had the max value from a production point of view, but from an entertainment point of view, I'm like, I don't want to follow this. Like,
Yep.
I'm disconnected, and I just look at that and go, yeah, like I said, I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm like, who's behind this? It's what you just said is the right part. People want the authentic people, and I think that's either difficult to do because you need someone who's not managing you and saying, no, I need this produced exactly this way. Like it's a little too robotic.
And again, just because you have the ultra fancy studio recording studio doesn't pan out. People that I follow both on YouTube podcasts and stuff are people who just do it from their home with their mobile with little as thank you. There you go. Those are the people that eventually they start off and grow it, then grow it to whatever it needs to be. Okay. But rather than that, I think that's why if you're an affiliate or cause anything within the iGaming, try and collaborate with other streamers or YouTubers. Building it from fresh, at least from my experience, has never panned out positive and never worth the investment.
It's a bit sad, but it makes sense. When you look at who's successful in the slot space, it's not easy to say, let's just copy these recipes. It's like you got Big Win Board with a lot of user generated content. You got About Slots, which they pivoted to streaming and video quite some time. And then Casino Grounds, they've been pretty streamer video friendly for quite some time. It's
A long time. Yes,
yeah,
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, like with not too far of things, but it is very important. You do need to spread from just the organic SEO traffic point of view. So you do need these streamers. So somehow you do need to collab if you want to compete against an ESPN. Again, best you're going to compete against that. You have to see how you're going to collaborate with someone else to bring in that alternative traffic to it.
yeah. I touched upon this before with the previous question about can operators take advantage of SEO because if Google's giving more, in my opinion, attention to products, well, what is a product? A casino is a product, a sports book and poker is a product. So I think they have a big opportunity, but I don't see them taking advantage of it yet. Is this just because, again, management doesn't understand SEO? What do they need to do to tap into this? Because some of the most successful iGaming operations today, I think they're just, you've seen Ahrefs, you've seen their data for Bet365 and Stake. They're just running away with this. What's going on here?
There's always the longevity part of things as well. I think the education on things is making sure you educate your in-house internal people that, as you said, just because, example, their product or sales, they do need to understand certain aspects of, example, SEO in this case. So education is one thing as well. And making sure you're putting up the correct tree. Don't build the ladder onto a wall and get to the end of it and realize it's not the right one. So that's definitely one approach as well. Just because you're chasing slots in UK and whatever doesn't mean that same exact approach is going to go into Australia where it's completely different. Pokies, the way they treat things, pokies is the main thing. So you need to get people who understand that niche within that specific geo as well. Just to example, go into that aspect. That's one thing. Australia is a very particular, or New Zealand is a very particular region as well, where it is, okay, no deposit bonds, but the pokies aspect is, I think, the largest compared to other slots markets. So from that aspect, yes, education is very important, I think.
So let's pretend I'm like a C-level exec. It doesn't matter, affiliate or operator. I want to learn SEO. How are you teaching me? How much time do I need? What does this look like?
So the first thing I need to understand is your current in-house team, what the current projects are, what the website is, what your current expectations are. I will start building it from there as well. So you need to understand this. If you come in with a little site that has a little traction and you want to go up against monsters within New Zealand, we have to be a bit more realistic. But if, for example, listen, you have one junior SEO guy taking care of your website and you want to compete against Bet365 in this case, then when to come in and educate, listen, you either want to hire external consultants in this case, or build up a team in this way as well. And again, with SEO, unfortunately, it is never a sprint. So it's not paid where you're going to pump in a specific amount and you expect to see the results instantly. I have projects where we put in 6, close to 9 months. The client is getting edgy. And then all of a sudden that spike comes in. That's when you're pulling out, you're trying to pump water out of something. That effort is significant. But once it is streamlined in, then you start to see the rewards there. So it's a patience game. That's one thing I need to understand. You need to be patient once we have a timeline in place. And yes, making sure you have the correct workforce, and together with the workforce, make sure you have the structures, the SOPs, the guide. The importance of SOPs and guides nowadays with AI I think is the most crucial. People think I have AI, it can create this form, making sure that you're using it to have all your SOPs to educate, to make things as easy for people who are not as experts, SEO experts, but they can ensure that they're verifying and ticking off all the boxes that an SEO expert would. And you can force it with AI as well.
So I think there's a demand for an iGaming SEO course for different types of people within the industry.
Definitely. It depends again on how strong your brand is. Always, if you have a very strong brand, you still need SEO because you need to protect that brand. So whatever it is, I think SEO is definitely, you have to come at it from all aspects. So say you have Bet365, you need to protect your brand. Okay, you have your legal aspect, but you don't want someone coming in and buying certain domains, exact match domains. That will make it very easy for them to even do 3 months of huge damage for you.
So what do you see of the future of affiliate marketing as it intersects with business intelligence?
So affiliate marketing is definitely something with tracking. So in the case of making sure that a tool like yours, I'll be honest as well, is significantly helpful once you get the ranking in place. So that's a kind of second part where it's vital to have something like that. But initially, the importance of literally build your brand, making sure that your brand is there. You have the correct domain names in place as well. That's one thing that I always find a bit skeptical. If it's you're starting from a scratch, just don't start from scratch. See how to do not to start from scratch unless you have a good 9 months or 9 months to a year of money to burn. But in case of affiliates as well, don't do the classic of old blog type of things. I hate that blog post kind of expression. Make sure that you're just there to provide direct answers and making sure that the structure is linked for a user to come in and genuinely convert them. You have to build for a user as much as you're building for a search engine. Don't just focus on the search engine.
Yeah, I think maybe there's some chats we can do after this call. It's with your answer. It's like we have some customers where we're merging some of their data into a centralized data viz. So it's stats-drone data, it's Search Console, it's Google Analytics. And in some other cases in the PPC space, we're doing like Google, Facebook ads, combining with their click data coming in from tools like Volume and Kaitaro. I just think the amount of data that can go in a central place is immense. And to give you one more further insight, there's a company that we talked to. We mentioned before about this whole M&A acquisition stuff. They basically said they saw a future vision of StatsDrone where everything came in. Search Console came in and Google Analytics came in. I think there's a demand for this dashboard, but it's about making sense of this dashboard as well.
Exactly. And I think one thing that an old SEO friend of mine is always state is falling into that analysis paralysis point of view where you end up with, that's why I hate having too many tools, too much data, because you'll end up having the absorbed amount of data coming in, but what the hell am I going to do with it?
Yeah.
So it's worthless. It's almost as good as having nothing. So this goes back to make sure you step back and make sure the analysis or whatever statistics that you have coming in, see that you're tracking the correct ones, the correct KPIs, take a step back and start to segment very specific stuff. Because again, let's collect this. But again, how are you going to convert? How are you going to know what's working? And this is the case. One thing that comes to mind now is when someone is hit with a Google update. Let's change everything on the website. Let's change this. Listen, it could be one thing. You're not sure. So start doing small incremental changes. Understand sometimes, obviously, it can be very nerve-wracking when revenue traffic is going down, the board is screaming at you. But there has to be that understanding that you might be doing much more damage if you're just changing 10, 20 things at one go. What was it that worked? You'll never know, and you can actually cause more damage eventually.
Yeah. I'm guilty of the analysis paralysis. I've had that for a long time in SEO. I know enough just from talking to smart people like you on this podcast. And I had one guy who's like, all right, let's just sit down for an hour and we're going to you're just going to do these steps. And then when I followed the steps, I had success. So it's funny that it's what you said earlier. Not a lot of people have a long-term vision, and patience is probably the biggest pain point out of everything.
I think I was with a previous company, like never to mention names, where it was more of a churn and burn approach, but there was a structure. There was, say, 3 months. This certain amount had to be made within this, but then once that skipped, it's expected that something bad can happen. But we know that revenue was made this time is over by then. That's an approach, yes. It can be a very dangerous approach, but you have to, if that's your approach, then okay, you have to be super aggressive, super black hat, whatever you need to do. But you have to understand it's either one or the other. You can't have them both. You can't be a sprinter and expect to do a marathon. Unfortunately, it's not possible right now. So no matter the amount of money, eventually just, if you just have more money, eventually what you'll be doing is just wasting more money. And just, if you succeed, it's going to be very hard to understand what was the succeeding factor.
I think what people maybe misunderstand about that aggressive short-term game is there's still discipline behind it. It's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a different, honestly, it's a different approach. It's still like the SEO, but the approach is totally different. You can't expect to buy or see how to gain backlinks naturally, progressively. No, there's one way. Listen, there's these amount of things that need to be done and executed within the shortest time possible. With anything SEO is to make it look as natural as possible. So if you get 100, 1,000 backlinks a month, you have to keep that kind of speed going constantly to make it look as natural as possible. So yeah, that's why these things have to be a bit pre-planned. And with SEO, you have to have the long game term within the pipeline. And that's what's hard to understand, to pitch to CEOs who don't understand it, or to shareholders who are just there to provide money. They're not expected to understand, but that's where I need to come in, or you need to come in, to make them understand that this is it. And you do that by seeing what the competitor is doing. And if you look deeper, you can see some sites that they come in within a month and they just spike up. Like, how did they do that? Yeah, but listen, they had this two other brands. They redirected their brand. They pushed their own social traffic to this brand. There's lots of hidden things which are not as easily exposed. You just see the Ahrefs graph. It went from 0 the next month to 60,000. Whoa, how can we replicate that? But yeah, it's the little things as well that from experience that would come into play.
Dirk, thank you so much for doing this. I want to pass it back to you to ask, how can people get a hold of you?
Absolutely. The best way is to go through my LinkedIn and check for my profile, or else, just Dirk, dirksco.com, and just contact me like that. But yeah, LinkedIn is the easiest way.
And you can get that in the show notes. Dirk, thank you so much for doing this.
John, thank you very much. I look forward to having further discussions in the future.
Thank you for tuning in to the Affiliate BI podcast. I'd like to take this time to ask for a small favor to leave a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast. That helps us expand our reach to rank higher in podcast directories and reach more listeners.